Hey everyone, it's Anime Reaper coming at you with another What If Naruto Found Out About Uzumaki Clan at a Young Age, Part 12. This fanfiction was written by Dreener. If you like this what if and want more like it, please like and subscribe to my channel and don't forget to check the description and leave a comment down below. Without further ado, let's get started. Chapter 24, Return to Konoha. Naruto. The sun started shining over the mountain, bringing light over the village hidden in the leaf. The villagers had just woken up, some had started their daily routine, opening shops, restaurants, some shinobis going to their new missions. 2 shinobi made their way to the gates of Konoha to look for anyone coming inside and going outside. Close to the walls of the village were 2 figures walking towards it. One was Jiraiya, who kept his gaze at Naruto. His student and godson had been dead silent since yesterday, and it was worrying him. He tried to start any conversation with his favorite redhead, but he would either ignore him or when he asked him, he would make a short and straightforward answer indicating that he wasn't in the mood for a conversation. Jiraiya knew his godson wasn't looking forward to it, but he hoped that 4 years had been enough for the villagers to forget him and possibly not be hostile towards him any longer. From what he had heard from his spies and he himself, the chances were low. Villagers were still celebrating the Kyuubi's defeat and the day the demon died. Just the thought that they celebrated made him sick, and he couldn't possibly understand how people could go so low. He sighed and looked to his left. Naruto kept his gaze at the gates getting closer, his red hair reaching his shoulders. He wore a new jacket, black in color, with a red phoenix symbol on the back. The same symbol that is in his sword, the eye of the phoenix, looked like Uzumaki symbol. Beneath the jacket, he wore a tight white shirt with the symbol of fire in the chest. Despite the jacket, his muscles from training could clearly be seen, and everyone that was a shinobi and even civil people could see Naruto was strong. He kept his chest high, and his sword tightened on his hips. He stood 140 centimeters tall, which was tall for an 8-year-old kid. His blue eyes looked brighter from the sun. He wore bandages under his clothes on his elbows and forearm. A seal on both of his shoulders that couldn't be seen from the naked eye. His weights are still on his body, 350 pounds on his legs, and 330 on his arms. Jiraiya had tried to tell him that he didn't need that much weight but was like talking to a wall. Hell, even a wall would understand at some point. Naruto had completed his elemental manipulation last month, which meant he could finally start training on some powerful jutsu, like that his mother left for him. Jiraiya-sensei told him that Rasengan wasn't a finished jutsu, his father had never completed it. Naruto wondered if he could complete it and make a more powerful jutsu. The technique was already dangerous and could quickly kill someone if is used in vital areas. But if he added more into it, he could make it to be an S-rank jutsu. Before he had left, Naruto had given Asha a copy of Uzumaki style, Phoenix. Naruto was walking with Hokage towards the lake that would lead them outside the village. Behind him came Fu and Asha. Naruto felt horrible to leave Asha. She was an Uzumaki like him. She and Fu understood him. They both knew his pain, and now he was leaving them so that he could go to a village he didn't like. Naruto knew the Hidden Leaf village had good shinobi, but still, he couldn't see the village as his home, and he knew that would never happen. He wondered what Uzumaki was like before it was destroyed mercilessly, how it looked. How were people there? Would they see him as normal or just like in the Hidden Leaf? Naruto didn't know, and there were no pictures or anything anywhere of the village to understand how it looked. Naruto turned to look at Asha and Fu, who gave him a sad smile. Naruto had told both Asha and Fu that the next time they met, they would make plans how to rebuild Uzumaki. Fu had agreed with it. She told them that Taki wasn't home to her and would happily follow her to only friends everywhere in the world. Naruto wanted more than anything to rebuild his homeland. Still, he needed to be strong. First, Naruto knew he wasn't weak now, but he was nothing compared to the likes of Hokage, Hokage, and other Kage around the elemental nations. Ashura-chan and Fu-chan, we will soon meet again, Naruto promised and handed Asha a red scroll that could only be opened by Uzumaki blood. With the help of Jiraiya-sensei, Asha was almost done with level V. Hokage had left her enough books to reach and complete level X. Asha smiled back and grabbed the scroll before hugging him tightly, much to his surprise, her fingers softly touching his red hair. Naruto couldn't help but blush by this. We will meet again, Naruto-kun, she whispered and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek that made Naruto turn red like his hair. Asha giggled and tried to fight her own blush from her porch. She grabbed a purple scroll and gave it to Naruto. She winked at him and took a step away so that Fu could say goodbye. Finally managing to catch his breath, he turned to look at Fu. Her orange eyes looked beautiful. Wait, beautiful? Stop it, Naruto, he thought to himself. Naruto had decided to give Fu the scroll how to do raise non since she had high wind affinity. He was about to give it to her when she jumped on him and hugged him tightly, rubbing her cheek against his, making him blush even more. I know we will meet again soon, Naruto-kun, and don't forget we are friends, she shouted the last part. Naruto could see the sadness behind her beautiful orange eyes. Yes, we are friends, Fu, we will always be and will always rely on each other, Naruto stated. Fu blushed at his words and gave him a big smile, and her eyes were smiling too. Her eyes looked at his blue ones and then gave him a quick kiss on his cheek that had the exact same effect as Asha. Naruto started rubbing his hair nervously and avoiding their faces while Jiraiya was slightly giggling at the scene in front of him. Young love, Jiraiya thought proudly for his godson. Not even 10 years old, and he has started stealing the hearts of beautiful girls. Imagine when he reaches 14 years old? Jiraiya thought, rubbing his hands together. Naruto grabbed his scroll and gave it to Fu, and she looked at the scroll smiling and looked back at him. She then grabbed a scroll from her backpack and gave it to Naruto but put a finger in her lips. This is my strongest jutsu that Konoha taught me. I hope you like it, she whispered. Naruto felt happy from the gift. That filled him with happiness. Thank you for your gifts Asha-chan and Fu-chan, Naruto thanked them. Is nothing Naruto-kun, Asha replied slightly, looking downwards, and not looking at his eyes with a blush on her face. Fu thanked him as well. It had been 1 month since he had left Taki. The jutsus they had given him were Uzumaki style, water flash, A rank, low S rank. The jutsu could collect the water close to the user, then threw at the enemy with fast speed. The speed enough made water penetrate anything, even metal. The water could easily reach Hokage level speed if used with wind release. Wind style, crumble wind. The jutsu needed both wind and earth release to work. It creates a large wind area that could be thrown that destroys trees and ground everything in his way. The jutsu could also be used to develop small wind blades inside to slice the enemy apart. The ground close and inside would crumble almost to the point to become like sand. High rank, high S rank. Cost, Hokage level chakra. Naruto still hadn't started to try and learn any of them. Jiraiya-sensei told him that the last month left, he was forbidden to train and rest. Spend his time having fun and feeling like an actual child. Naruto finds it funny, as long as he can remember. He never saw himself as a child. He could only keep his weights and make them heavier if he wished but not any other kind of training. Naruto at first had complained but then quickly accepted when even Kurama told him that he needed to rest. Naruto had finished level V in Fuinjutsu, and now he needed to complete level 6. He was looking forward to reaching level 8 since once he completed it, he could start training his Hirishin. Naruto knew that technique was what made his father. The yellow flash, flee on sight in his bingo book and SS rank. Naruto had asked Kurama what kind of level were Hashirama and Madara on their prime. I don't know exactly how your rating works, but if your old man was SS rank, then Hashirama and Madara were SSS rank. Kurama had replied with venom when he mentioned the strongest Uchiha to have ever existed and the first Hokage. Jiraiya suddenly stopped walking and turned his head to Naruto. The young redhead stopped as well and turned to look at Togeji and wondered why he stopped. This is where we part ways, Jiraiya stated, looking at Naruto, who raised an eyebrow in confusion. Why is that? I thought you would come with me to explain everything to Jiji, Naruto said, glancing at the village ahead of them and then turning to the old Sunin again. I'm sure you can do that yourself, I have something important to do, Jiraiya stated, thinking that now he would find Tsunade and tell her about Naruto. He hoped to find her soon and wondered what she would do once she understood the truth about Naruto. He hoped she would find in her heart to return back to the village, but if she did and saw how the village treated Naruto. The young redhead didn't really understand his reasons, he could feel there was something Togeji was hiding, but he knew was nothing to worry about. He shrugged his shoulders and decided to ignore it. Very well, Jiraiya-sensei, and thank you for these 4 awesome years. Naruto thanked him and hugged him tightly. Jiraiya was slightly taken aback by his hug, but he quickly returned it and rubbed his hair. Is nothing Naruto, Jiraiya replied. Naruto smiled, hearing his words and pulled away. Wish me good luck, Naruto said before turning to walk towards the gates of the village. Jiraiya chuckled at his words. Good luck, he whispered once Naruto was out of the ear-hearing area. He turned around and quickly shunshin away. Naruto soon reached the gates. He looked at the walls and wondered why they looked smaller, but overall, nothing had changed. He took a deep breath and started walking again. Soon, he reached the entrance, immediately stopped by two shinobi who guarded the gates. Naruto could feel two hidden Anbu in each side of the gate. Sighing, he walked towards them. Who are you that you want to enter? The man asked kindly, looking at his face. The man could have sworn he had seen that face before. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm supposed to meet Hokage-sama today, saying that no voice could be heard. His pencil fell to the ground, and he looked at Naruto in the face. Both he and his friend saw the three whiskers on each side of his face. He looked taller and more muscular, but the whiskers and the red hair were a straight giveaway. Oh, you have grown up. You can enter, of course, the man replied with a small smile, happy that the poor kid was alright and wasn't truly dead as the village celebrated. Naruto felt his honesty and smiled at both of them. Turning to the village, he started walking forward. People were everywhere on the roads. After a few minutes of walking, Naruto could notice some people were giving him glances of curiosity and a hint of anger. Naruto sighed, thinking that wouldn't take long now. Soon everyone would know that Naruto was back. He gave it 2 days at max before the whole village found out about it. He looked up at the Hokage faces in the mountain, and his eyes looked at his father. How much he wished for him to be with him. As he kept walking, Naruto passed the academy. He could feel the chakra of the students in there, and what caught his attention was that none of them was even Chunin level except for the teachers. He knew he had a huge amount of chakra because of his Uzumaki blood and Kurama, but still, most of the genin didn't even have a genin level of chakra below that. He wondered why and hoped that the academy wouldn't be a total waste of time. Deciding to ignore it, he kept walking towards the Hokage tower. Naruto wondered how Jiji looked now, or maybe he looked the exact same but slightly older. He then wondered about his apartment and if anyone was ever there to clean or it had done nothing but collect dust for 4 years, or maybe someone had just put it in flames. Naruto didn't know, but he knew he could use shadow clones to clean the house if needed. And maybe wood style to build one, but that would raise too many eyebrows. Walking closer, Naruto knew some villagers were following and talking to other people. Some started pointing their fingers towards him, probably thinking he couldn't see them. Getting bored by this, he jumped up and landed on the rooftop of the nearest building. Taking a deep breath of fresh air, he ran with speed towards the Hokage tower. He soon reached the tower. Walking upstairs, he soon reached a room that the secretary worked. Naruto could feel 2 Anbu inside the room, but he ignored them. The woman saw him and stood up. What can I help you with? She asked kindly, but couldn't help but notice the look of the warrior on his face. Naruto turned to look at her. He smiled and decided to act innocently. I'm supposed to meet Hokage-sama today, he replied, not wanting to stay longer here. I'm sorry, but the Hokage is a very busy man, and you have to make an appointment to see him, said the secretary politely. Well, the Hokage will be expecting me, as he knows I'm arriving here, spoke Naruto, although the secretary did not look convinced as to what he was saying. Look, could you just to him and say that Naruto is here, he will know who I'm, and if he doesn't, then I'll leave. Okay, said Naruto, as he didn't want to waste any time trying to convince the women. Her eyes widened slightly at the name. Very well then, said the secretary with a sigh, but when she entered the Hokage office and told him that a young red-haired boy carrying a katana on his back named Naruto was outside his office, he wanted to speak to him and to say that he was expecting him. The secretary was surprised to see an eager and happy look appear on the old Hokage's face, where he quickly called his Anbu that was hidden in his room rafters and told them to leave. After that, he then told her to tell the Anbus that were outside his room to go and said to her that she was dismissed for the rest of the day and told Naruto to come in. Naruto walked inside and saw his Jiji smiling behind the desk. Naruto, my boy, is good to see you, he said happily. Naruto hugged him. He pulled away to give him a good look. He saw that Naruto had grown. His face looked sharper, almost like his father, his blue eyes like the ocean. The old Hokage noticed he looked slightly larger and wondered how much Naruto had trained throughout the years. Is good to see you too, Jiji, Naruto replied. His eyes glanced at his father's photo before turning to the old Hokage, something that he noticed. I take you have grown stronger, the old Hokage said with a chuckle, but at the same time could feel the aura of power surrounding Naruto. The kid in front of him wasn't an ordinary genin. He wondered how strong Naruto was now, since Jiraiya had been pretty vague when talking about his training. Soon Naruto sat close to his desk, and they started talking about what he had done the last 4 years. His thoughts about Mount Myaboku, if he made any friends. The old Hokage was impressed when Naruto told him that he had reached level 6 in Fuinjutsu and wondered that it would be only a matter of time until he reaches level X to reach the same level as Jiraiya. Naruto then went on and talked about how peaceful and quiet Mount Myaboku was and how friendly the toads there were. He spoke about his visit to Taki. His friendship with Fuinashira. Sarutobi was impressed to hear there were other Uzumaki out there. He was happy to hear that Naruto had new friends. He needed them more than anyone else. After a long talk that lasted 2 hours, Sarutobi grabbed a key and a note from his desk and gave it to Naruto. "These are the keys to your apartment. The letter is for the teacher of your class. Gave him to explain to him why you will start today," Hiruzen said. Naruto nodded his head and stood up. "See you later, Jiji," Naruto said, waving his hand at him, and soon jumped from the window, much to the annoyance of the old Hokage, who hoped that Jiraiya hadn't shown his books to Naruto. Naruto. He was walking through the village towards his apartment. It was probably around 11 of the day. The teaching had already started, and Naruto knew it would be a waste of time to go to the academy now, so he decided to go tomorrow morning like everyone else. While walking, Naruto wondered what they would be taught them in the academy, and he hoped they would teach them about Fuinjutsu. He soon reached the apartment. Reaching his floor, he saw the door to his apartment had words written all over it. Even the wall close to the door had words written. Demon. Child of sin. Killer. Burn in hell. Kuwabai. Naruto sighed and opened the door. "What a warm welcome," he murmured, walking inside. He saw the whole place looked messed up, probably because of the last accident, since after he got beaten, he never returned to his apartment to fix the mess they had made. Sighing, he crossed his fingers, and 10 clones suddenly showed up. "Fix the house," he said, and the clones started working while Naruto decided to visit his favorite restaurant until they were done. Naruto left the apartment and made his way towards Ichiraku Ramen, and he wondered how they would treat him. They treated him well last time. He soon reached the restaurant, ignoring the annoying glances from the villagers. Walking inside, he saw who he thought was Ayam. She looked taller now and probably around her 14. She looked more beautiful. Ayam noticed the new customer and turned to look at him, but her eyes immediately widened when he saw the familiar red hair and the whiskers on his face. "Naruto, is that you?" she almost shouted happily. He was about to reply when his head suddenly got gripped by 2 hands and got in a bear hug from Ayam. "It's so good to see you, Naruto," she said, hugging him tightly. Naruto tried to talk but couldn't. "I see I can. Bree," he tried to say, and she understood his position and let him go. Naruto gasped for air, his hand on his chest. "I'm sorry, Naruto," she quickly apologized. Finally catching his breath, he shook his head. "Don't worry, Ayam, it is good to see you too," he replied, smiling at her, and his eyes looked around in time to see the old man walking towards them. His eyes still closed, and Naruto wondered how could he even cook without looking unless he had some kind of secret dojutsu. "Naruto, is good to see you," he said, happily to see him back, but most importantly that the village had been wrong about his supposed death. Naruto then went and explained that he had been training for 4 years. After a little while, Ayam handed Naruto a large bowl of hot ramen and told him to enjoy it, which he did for the moment that the hot noodles were in his mouth. Naruto had stars in his eyes as this was the best ramen, just like how he remembers it. Within seconds Naruto quickly ate everything in the bowl. "That was great, Ayam-chan," said Naruto, which made the girl smile. "Thanks, my Dio-san taught me everything I know about cooking," she replied. "Is there any more?" asked Naruto as he was still hungry and was hoping to have more of Ayam's delicious ramen. "Sure, as much as you like," said Ayam with a smile and went to get more ramen from the large pot. Once he was full, Naruto thanked Ayam and Tenchi for the free meal and promised to return again soon. Both Ayam and Tenchi said he was more than welcome. Although Tenchi did joke that Naruto would have to pay next time, which caused Naruto to smirk a little. Walking towards his home, he thought, "Tomorrow is the academy, I wonder what it is like there? I hope my friends haven't forgotten me," thought Naruto. He knew the likes of Shikamaru probably didn't, but he wasn't sure when it came to Ino and Koji. Reaching his apartment, the clones had already cleaned the whole house. He smiled, and they soon popped out of existence. Naruto, I'm thinking for you to start training with 2 tails worth of chakra after a year, Kurama suddenly said. Once he reaches 2 tails, reaching 3 tails will be even more accessible. 4 tails would be much harder, probably the most challenging part. Naruto thought about it and nodded his head in agreement. Sitting on the couch, he started making a security seal for his house to stop any idiot trying to break in. Jiraiya. He was walking throughout the forest. In his pocket was a photo. He had kept it for 3 years now. He was always looking at it from time to time. Looking down at it, the picture was made in Mount Myaboku, 1 year after Naruto had arrived. It was him in the photo and Naruto smiling, standing on his shoulders. Jiraiya smiled, looking at it. How much Naruto reminded him of Minato scared him sometimes. I'm sorry, but he couldn't make it. Jiraiya remembers those words extremely well. Sometimes even in nightmares. It has been 32 years now, and it still hurt whenever he remembered that tragedy. He quickly used his hand to wipe away a tear, putting the photo in his secret pocket. He continued his road. Chapter 25, Academy. Naruto. The cloak started singing in the morning. Naruto moaned in annoyance for waking up, but that wasn't enough. Wakey wakey Naruto, is time to wake the fuck up, Kurama screamed in his head. Naruto's eyes immediately widened, and he stood up on his legs. He yawned loudly and started stretching his legs and arms. He looked at the table close to his bed, and the damn clock was still ringing like a broken record. Without thinking twice, he punched the clock. That was enough to destroy it along with the table holding it completely. He still wasn't used to his punches, but Jiraiya told him that he had the same problem that Tsunade-sama had when she first started using her insane strength. I didn't know that, you swear, Kurama. Naruto said mentally, not remembering that the furball had ever used swears. So what? I'm thousands of years old, and I'm old enough to swear, Kurama replied with a smirk. Fair enough, Naruto replied, smiling at his friend's response. Finally relaxing that the annoying sound was over, he looked at a chair where his clothes were lying on the back of the chair. He slowly walked up to it and grabbed his jacket. As he was wearing his jacket, his eyes went to the cloak his Togeji had gifted him before reaching the village. The cloak was large for him right now but was more for him to use once he became a genin. The cloak was dark with red flames at the bottom. With the Uzumaki symbol on the back, standing proudly. Naruto smiled and had thanked his Togeji for thinking of him and giving him new clothes. And what the redhead liked even more was that the cloak looked exactly like his father except with a few minor changes, but still, Naruto treasured it like the sword his mother had given to him. Naruto then wore his dark pants. His scratches and injuries from his training had been healed. He took the seal paper and put it on his shoulder. With a hand sign, the seal disappeared and couldn't be seen. Togeji had taught his jutsu to become invisible, but when Naruto had asked how and why he had made the jutsu, his godfather had just murmured something under his breath and told him that he didn't need to know. Naruto was sure that he needed it to spy in enemy villages for information, right? For what else could he be using it? His seal papers could only be seen with Sharingan or Byakugan. His seal was a chakra storage seal. He hid it from the naked eye since he didn't want people to know all his secrets. The seal also worked as a barrier seal to create a protecting barrier around him that used his chakra. Combining seals was one of the 3 most challenging parts of learning Fuinjutsu. Naruto developed both a storage seal and barrier seal and combined them in a single seal that could do both. That was what he needed to learn in level 7 of Fuinjutsu. Naruto naturally asked if someone could combine like 3 seals. Still, Togeji told him that the only one who could do that was his father and mother, who could incorporate 3 different seals, but his sensei then said that he had never heard of combining more than 3 seals. Naruto was sure there was a way to do that as well, but right now, he wasn't at the level needed to start thinking about that. When it came to the seal on his stomach, he still had no clue why the seal would glow red. Kurama explained that when he had lost control, the seal had stopped him from going further, but the seal apparently worked in 2 ways. When Naruto had used 1 tail worth of chakra without losing control, the seal had not tried to stop it, almost like the seal was designed to know when Naruto had control and when not. That was a relief to Naruto since it meant he could try to go 2 tails without the fear that he might lose control, but Kurama had warned him that the seal had a limit. If he lost control and went 6 tails or above, then Kurama wasn't sure if the seal would be able to do anything. Naruto had asked what KCM, Kyuubi Chakra mode, that he had once mentioned to him was. Kurama had told him to use it. he needed the key for the seal and second to control all 9 taels worth of chakra and get rid of his negative side. Naruto didn't understand what that meant, but Kurama told him to not worry about it. The redhead then had asked about the Baryon mode, but Kurama had quickly dropped the subject and told him that wasn't needed for him to know. Naruto didn't care much, and he wanted to be strong on his own and not rely on Kurama all the time. Naruto prepared his food, rice with egg. He broke the egg at the top of his rice bowl and used a chopstick to mix them. He used a bit of melted chocolate. He kept moving his chopstick around until he thought that was good enough. He soon started eating and followed it with water. After eating, he walked to the door. He smirked, seeing the seals that he had put in the house in case someone wanted to do something funny, and he grabbed the letter that he was supposed to give to the teacher. He opened the door and wore his blue shinobi sandals. He jumped from the staircase and landed on the ground, and soon started walking towards the academy. Since he arrived yesterday, the word had spread in some parts of the village that the demon fox has returned from the dead and is ready to slaughter all of them. Naruto sighed, tired of the looks some people were giving him. He knew these looked well, but not being here for 4 years and not receiving them for such a long time made him kind of forget how it was to have them. As he was walking, Naruto couldn't help but feel the negative emotions of many people around him. They glared at him, some saying that the demon had been reborn and that they should kill him again or some bullshit like that. Tired of this, Naruto jumped up to the rooftop and started walking towards the academy. He just hoped the academy would be worth it and that he wouldn't waste his time there. Kurama, what do you think I should do about the academy? Naruto suddenly asked. What do you mean? What is there to do except listen to a boring teacher who talks too fast and calls everyone who asks questions an idiot for not understanding? Kurama replied. Naruto chuckled slightly at his reply but decided to get to the point. I mean, we both know that if I do very well in the academy, the civil council will be so happy. To complain that you're taking over my body and ready to kill all of them, Naruto replied. Kurama laughed at his response. Why does it matter? They will bitch and moan even if you're the dead last. Don't try to do things their way to please a bunch of idiots who talk about things they don't understand, Kurama replied. Naruto mentally nodded his head in agreement with what Kurama said. He thought the same but just wanted to have a second thought about this subject. Naruto slowly reached the academy. Class. The students who wanted to become shinobi in the future, all were waiting for the arrival of their teacher to start their study. Many found the whole thing boring, and one found it troublesome. So far they had only been teaching simple boring history and have a few fights here and there amongst students. But so far, nothing special. They still hadn't learned any awesome jutsu. Most of them couldn't wait until they became genin and went on adventures to earn respect and glory. They all thought they would protect important people and fight and win against the bad guys. The door suddenly opened to reveal a pink-haired girl, who immediately screeched at the top of her lungs. Sasuke-kun walking up the stairs and sitting close to his place, since Sasuke always sat alone and didn't want anyone to sit close to his place. He was quiet and didn't talk much. Most would respond with HNN, but that was made him look cool to most of the girls in the class. Except for a certain girl, who didn't talk much because of her shyness. Her eyes were white like milk because of her clan's Kekkei Genkai. The Byakugan. Followed by the pink girl soon came a blonde girl. Ino Yamanaka slowly shook her head at seeing Sakura scream like that. Ino walked and sat close to Sakura, who had stars in her eyes and looked at the brooding Uchiha like he was a prince in shining armor. Close to Shikamaru's desk was seated a boy wearing a high jacket covering most of his face, dark glasses that covered his eyes. Many thoughts of him as a freak, and some who knew about his clan jutsu with bugs found him disturbing. Close to him was seated a boy with red lines across his cheek, sharp teeth, and a dog at the top of his head. After a while, every student came to the class and was waiting for the teacher. The door suddenly opened to reveal a man around his 30s, a mark that went from cheek to cheek across his nose. Seeing that everyone had come, he cleared his throat to start. Today will be different. Right now, we will welcome the new student of our class. Now He was interrupted by the boy with the dog. Hey, what's this? How he can join us without doing the first 2 years? The boy almost shouted accusingly at the teacher. His dog barked in agreement with his owner. Kiba, the boy, has permission from the Hokage. If you have any problems, you can go and talk to him, the teacher responded with a higher tone. The mention of the Hokage made Kiba quiet and sat down without saying another word. Understanding there wouldn't be any more interruptions, he decided to continue. Now, I want everyone to be kind to him and treat him like a friend. he finished, but he wasn't sure about this part. He understood who the boy was. Unlike the others, he didn't straight up hate him, but still looking at him reminded him of his parents. "Come in," the teacher shouted, and the door opened to reveal Naruto walking inside. His red hair like blood was what immediately caught the attention of everyone in the class. Ino silently gasped. She remembered the tomato, Naruto. Shikamaru was fully awake, much to Koji's surprise, who looked happy to see Naruto again. The three remembered him and had been said when they had heard that he had gone outside the village to train. Naruto noticed the look of curiosity of many around the class. He suddenly heard a voice from his right side. "Introduce yourself," the teacher Iruka said, but without looking at him. Naruto wondered if the teacher hated him. He couldn't feel any negative emotions, well, not to the same extent as the others, but he could feel a small hint of sorrow and anger inside him. Naruto then focused on the class in front of him. "Hello there," he said with a carefree tone. The whole class sweat dropped at his choice of words. "I meant your name," Iruka-sensei said with annoyance in his tone. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, I hope we have a good time," he introduced himself, not knowing what else to say. His hands behind his head. "Now, would you kindly sit somewhere that you want," Iruka-sensei told him with a stern tone. His eyes immediately noticed Shikamaru sitting close with who he thought was Koji. To his surprise, the third chair of their desk was empty, and his eyes looked to his right to see Ino sitting close to a pink-haired girl. She looked different, taller, and her hair was tightened to a short ponytail. She was wearing a purple shirt. Naruto turned to look at the pineapple boy and decided to sit close to Shikamaru since he knew them, but he didn't know if they still remembered him. He walked up to them and turned to look at Shikamaru. "Can I sit here?" he asked, looking at them. "Of course, Naruto has been a long time," Koji replied immediately, happy that their friend was back in the village. Naruto's face brightened that Koji could remember him. Sitting down, Shikamaru was in the middle, and Koji was on the left side. "Shikamaru, how have you been?" Naruto asked, looking at Shikamaru whose head was resting against the desk, his hands like a pillow. "Troublesome is good to see you again, Naruto," he greeted him with a tired tone before returning to sleep. Both Koji and Naruto had a sweet drop behind their heads. "Haha, he hasn't changed at all, the same lazy, I wonder if his dream is still to sleep?" Naruto asked himself, happy that he could spend time with them. Iruka cleared his throat to grab everyone's attention except Shikamaru. Everyone turned to him, and Naruto wondered what they would learn first with enthusiasm. Later. "This is boring," Naruto said to himself. He couldn't believe for 3 hours that he had been here, the only thing they did was to talk about history. He couldn't understand why. Naruto knew knowing history was important, but knowing clans, bloodlines, and how to start elemental manipulation training was far more critical, for crying out loud. Or maybe learn your affinities. Hell, he asked Koji, since Shikamaru had fallen asleep, if they were taught how to do chakra control exercise, and the answer was no. Naruto couldn't understand. Why? Learning walking in trees and standing on the water was not something that needed that much thought and training and was nothing that couldn't be taught to 8-year-old children. Right now, Naruto had fallen asleep, his hands like a pillow. Shikamaru was sleeping, leaving Koji to look at them with a raised eyebrow. He didn't expect Naruto to end up like Shikamaru. Iruka was getting irritated by their laziness. He understood Shikamaru, but why Naruto? He needed to know these things. "Naruto!" Iruka screamed to grab the redhead's attention. Naruto slowly raised his head and rubbed his eyes with his hand. "You say something, Iruka-sensei?" Naruto asked with a tired tone and with half-closed eyes. Iruka was boiling inside and letting out steam from his ears. "I'm going to ask you questions. Let's see if you can answer them," he stated. Naruto just shrugged his shoulders, ready to answer whatever he might throw at him. "Well, for what was the first Hokage known for?" Iruka asked. "He was known for his wood style that is the strongest bloodline ever to exist, even stronger than the Sharingan." At the mention that Mokuton was stronger than Sharingan, Sasuke clenched his teeth and fists. Naruto noticed his sudden change of emotions but didn't bother to see what was his problem. Mokuton could be used to control the tailed beasts including Kyuubi. The first Hokage along with Madara Uchiha were the ones to build the hidden village in the leaf. The village was built with the Mokuton ability of the first Hokage. Naruto finished. Iruka was impressed since he didn't expect Naruto to know the answer and he knew more than needed. After almost half an hour later, Iruka looked surprised, and so was everyone in the class. Even Shikamaru was slightly self-aware of what was happening in the class. Naruto had answered every question that Iruka-sensei threw at him, hell, even questions that the class hadn't learned yet. Iruka made a mental note not to underestimate Naruto and be honest, and he was impressed with what the kid knew. Well, now Mizuki will come here, and you will have an honor duel against each other, Iruka stated, and that grabbed the attention of everyone in the class. Even Shikamaru was fully awake now. Naruto wondered how good his friends were and if anyone around here was at his level, but he could feel that none of them had even high genin chakra. But Naruto knew better than to underestimate them. Suddenly the door opened, revealing a man close to Iruka's age. White hair and a fake smile on his face. His face looked like a triangle to Naruto. His eyes turned to the class when he almost immediately noticed the redhead with whiskers on the front. He fought the urge to clench his teeth. So the rumors are true. The demon has returned, Mizuka thought with a creepy smile. Naruto could feel the negative emotions from the new guy, and he fought the urge to roll his eyes. He wondered if the teacher would try to do anything against him, but Naruto knew it didn't matter in the end. The man Mizuka had low in chakra level. They soon started leaving the class and going outside. Naruto noticed the brooding Uchiha was looking at him with a hint of irritation and curiosity. Naruto knew from Jiraiya-sensei that the Uchiha clan had been massacred from Itaki Uchiha. He felt pity for him and understood how it is to lose your clan. They soon were outside. Iruka-sensei turned his head to the class. First, we will practice throwing shurikens, he stated with a stern voice. Each of the students took turns at the target poles and the target dummies for the next hour. Shino hit 7 out of the 10 targets points on the target pole and got 3 out of 5 target points on the first target dummy, 4 out of 5 on the second dummy, and 4 out of 5 again on the third. Kiba hit 5 out of the 10 target points on the target pole and got 3 out of 5 target points on the first target dummy, 2 out of 5 on the second dummy, and 4 on the third. Hinata hit 7 out of the 10 target points on the target pole and got 4 out of 5 target points on the first target dummy, 3 out of 5 on the second dummy, and 4 again on the third. Sakura hit 1 out of the 10 target points, earning a look of disappointment from Iruka. Ino hit 3 out of the 10, she looked proud with herself that she got 3, and most importantly, she hit more than Sakura, who had a tick mark on her forehead. Finally, the last students remaining were Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke got all the targets points on the target pole at once, where he threw all 10 of his shurikens at once, where they all hit the targets points on the target pole dead center at roughly the same time. Upon seeing this, Sasuke's fangirls started to scream and cheer loudly at how their Sasuke-kun was so fabulous and talented and that he was the best. Sasuke, for his part, ignored the girls' screaming, while Naruto cringed at the screams, after which he shook his head in annoyance, as his mother warned him in her letter about the fangirl and to stay away from them. He could also not help but be disappointed that all the girls in the class, minus Hinata, were fangirls, which went to show how far the Konoha Academy standards had fallen. He had thought that the girls in a shinobi village as big as Konoha would train like Fuerasha, but instead, he found the opposite. The Hidden Leaf village is known as the strongest village out of 5 big shinobi villages, but to see this kind of behavior made Naruto seriously question it. The next generation should be stronger than the last. Naruto then turned to watch Sasuke as he then threw some more shurikens at the target dummies, where he hit 4 out of 5 target points on all 3 target dummies. This, of course, resulted in more screams of joy from Sasuke's fangirls, much to Naruto's annoyance. After Sasuke was finished with a slight smirk on his face, Naruto knew he didn't care to have the attention of useless fangirls, but to see himself being better than the others made him smirk, thinking he was on top. Iruka then called Naruto up. Iruka handed him the shurikens. Naruto sighed and looked at the targets. Many of the class were interested to see how the new guy does. Even Sasuke was slightly interested in seeing if he would be a loser or a challenge to compare himself with. Taking a deep breath, Naruto threw all his shurikens with a single throw, and all of them landed, making a perfect score, even better than Sasuke. All the girls gasped at what they saw, especially Ino, who couldn't help but notice that Naruto was better than Sasuke-kun. Shikamaru had a slight smirk, almost like he already knew the outcome. Koji had stopped eating. Kiba clenched his teeth, and it wasn't enough that Sasuke was better than him and stole all the attention, but now there's a second one. Sasuke looked interested in what he saw. So he's strong. Perhaps this Naruto wouldn't be a waste of time and could be an excellent rival to match myself with. Sasuke thought. Iruka had his mouth wide open while Mizuki looked ready to burst into flames. Getting over the shock, Iruka cleared his throat. Excellent throw, Naruto, you have a perfect score, 10 points. Sasuke is second place with 9 points. Iruka went on saying how many points each one had. Soon after the throwing and aiming train, Iruka began the taijutsu training, where he started to call out people in pairs and had them fight each other in taijutsu to see how well their taijutsu skills were. For the next 40 minutes, the students fought each other in taijutsu, where some won and others lost. Naruto watched their fights, but most weren't really worth watching, but even still, there were a small few that were. Some like Hinata's fight against Sakura, where Sakura attacked Hinata with her knowledge of basic academy level taijutsu and was easily defeated by Hinata, who used a gentle fist. Hitting the ground, Sakura looked up at Hinata. "Hey, what's your problem?" she asked since she had apparently messed her hair when she hit the ground. Hinata just raised an eyebrow since this was a fight where they're supposed to fight. Iruka shook his head and called the next match. Another was Koji against a student named Taha, where he used his size and power to defeat Taha. Naruto cheered for him, and so did Shikamaru. The final one that was of noteworthy attention was Sasuke against another academy student named Sando. Sasuke used his more advanced taijutsu skill and training to overwhelm Sando completely and defeat him without too much trouble. Finally came to Naruto's turn and his enemy was Kiba. When he saw who he was fighting, he grinned, and a cocky smile was on his face looking at the redhead like a tomato in front of him that didn't look much. "Now let's see how well you do against an alpha like me, tomato," Kiba taunted him and pointed his finger at him. Naruto just raised an eyebrow. "Did you say something?" he asked. That made Kiba's blood boil that a nobody like him was acting like he was superior to him. Akamaru started barking at him, warning him that Naruto was stronger than even the teacher. Akamaru could feel a bit of the demonic chakra in Naruto, which made his tail go between his legs and started whining. Kiba looked at him confused but then turned at Naruto. Iruka could only sigh at Kiba's behavior. "Hajime," he shouted, and Kiba rushed at him with all his speed. His arms spread out, ready to hit his face with his fist. Naruto suddenly disappeared from the view and was in front of Kiba, caughting him off guard. With a quick strike on his stomach, Kiba felt all his insides wanting to come out. He gasped and fell on his knees and threw out everything. "Ho! Howdy?" he tried to ask. "How did I do it?" "Well, you rushed at me completely open, and you practically screamed at me, 'Attack me,' and I did that," Naruto explained, looking down at him with a small smile. Kiba clenched his teeth before losing concussions. Akamaru rushed at his owner and started licking his face. Everyone looked surprised from what they saw, even Shikamaru looked surprised. He knew Naruto was stronger, but this just proved that he was beyond stronger. He sighed. "This is troublesome," he whispered to himself, but Koji heard him. "Did you see that? Of course, he's amazing." "No, just amazing, he's handsome as sin." The girls started talking to each other about how Naruto looked. He sighed, annoyed, and walked back at the crowd. Mizuki clenched his fist tightly. "The demon is strong, the council will know about this demon, and this time we will kill you," he thought, furious that the demon brat was so strong. Iruka looked impressed, but when he checked Kiba, he could see he wasn't hurt. He knew Naruto could have hurt him but didn't. That moment Iruka smiled at the kid and decided to see him as more than just the demon fox of the Hidden Leaf Village. That all for What If Naruto Found Out About Uzumaki Clan at an Early Age, Part 12. If you like this story, please show your support by liking the video and subscribing to my channel, and also show your support to the author by hitting the link down in the description. Thanks for listening, and until next time.